Hey y'all, this is Shira Dedman. I'm the host of Web3 Weekly Live. Hey, good morning. So I'm going to add one of our guests to the stream. Hello, hi Ubio.
Hi, Shira. Good
So,
day.
hi, for y'all who are here, thank you. Today we're going to be talking about Black folk and blockchain. And so we're going to be waiting for our other two guests who have not joined us yet. Just saying. CP time is my assumption. Um,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, so we're going to be talking about Black folks and blockchain. If y'all didn't read the article that I attached to the, I guess, well, some of you are joining in from not from LinkedIn. So on LinkedIn, I gave a blurb and I attached a link to an article on Twitter. I mean, that was from, well, excuse me, that was a Atlanta Tribune. Thank you, Atlanta Tribune article that talked about the fact that young Black people are more likely than their, white counterparts to own cryptocurrencies, and it was about 18% versus 13%. And so that's when I saw that I'm like, this is, you cannot talk about Web 3.0 adoption and not, and this is kind of like the elephant in the room. We got to talk about why do we think that Black folks are adopting this at so much of a higher rate. So with that said, um, Ubio, would you like to introduce yourself and your entrance into the Web3 world?
All right. Hi, guys. I'm Ubio here. And yeah, I love introducing myself as an AI expert and a blockchain researcher. All right. So that's just me in a brief. Okay. But I work at Remostat. And basically, what we do at Remostat is to use blockchain to give Black people or people from minority background opportunity for them to be able to work remotely. So for us, blockchain is used as an empowering tool to bridge the gap that actually does exist with minority groups. And definitely, one of such minority groups are Black communities, where I actually do come from. And so, using blockchain to actually bridge this gap and to give them opportunity at work. And so, why work, right? So, I'm going to come to how I came into Web3. But I think it's important that we understand why work is actually my means of trying to solve the problem in that exists in our community, right? So there are different means in which people are trying to solve the problem of imbalance and that actually does exist in and all the stereotype that does exist in our community. And yeah,
Oh,
for me, I choose.
absolutely. Well, especially, sorry to pop in, but especially, I mean, we've seen the data that shows that you have, let's just say, if you have a Black person who has the exact same resume as a white person, forget about it, just which is determined by their name, right? And then if
Yeah,
you have a white person that has, let's say, a degree, what do you call that? A high school degree, in
yeah,
comparison to a Black person that has a college degree, they still
yeah,
have a better chance.
yeah, yeah.
So tell us
So
about
I'm
a little
gonna
bit about how you are dealing with this kind of
yeah,
inequity.
I'm gonna deal with this. Like, I think there are two real case scenarios that I need to talk about, like with respect to what you just discussed. So, there was a research that was done, I think, in Germany, and so what these guys did was actually so two different things. They actually put Black people, put their passport and then sent it actually to HR managers. And then they realized that by the time they removed the passport and then their face and all of that, these same guys actually, there was like over 30 to 40% increase in the number of people that stood a chance to be at least interviewed when the passport was actually removed. And then the second stereotype was actually women, like from women that are actually Muslims, and then putting the hijab and applying for certain jobs. Once that was done, and then they realized that there was about 40% of these guys were actually rejected just because they had that stuff on. And so when they removed it, they had a higher chance at actually getting a chance to at least be interviewed, right? So That was one of the research that actually speaks to what you're talking about. The second research that actually talks about this was it's a direct, like we use it for fun in the black community when we talk about the fact that like I don't know how to put it. We say God give me the confidence of the young white guy who is just 17 applying to YC without any product and without anything, and yet still he gets admitted. Like,
Okay, I'll tell you how we say it. We say it,
all right,
God give me the confidence of a mediocre white man.
all right, okay, okay. Yeah. For us, we say, well, like in the startup community, we say, God give me the confidence of a white young teen. Like he has absolutely no idea, nothing, who is applying to YC, and at the end he gets admitted, right? Meanwhile, you have all the connections, the PhD, and you're not gonna get the chance. So stereotypes do exist, biases do exist, and it's one thing for us to actually come to the acknowledgement that these things are really existing, and for us to actually come up with a solution, right? So a lot of people are trying to solve this problem in their own unique way, but for me, I chose to solve it by creating a platform that actually empowers Black people and people from minority backgrounds to actually get a chance at jobs, right? Remotely, at least. Like that's the easiest way for me to be able to solve the problem. So how did I come to Web3, right? So coming to Web3 was actually, I would say, it's more of a serendipity than more of like something that was thought out. So and again, I would like to talk to the statistics that you actually quoted, because I think that statistic is very very true, and I don't know any black person around me that doesn't have a blockchain, that doesn't have a wallet, because, and I'm going to tell you why that is actually the reason, right? So but before we talk about that, so how did I come into Web3? So I came into Web3 as a serendipity. I got the problem, and I knew about the fact that these biases do exist. Like I said, I'm a researcher. I research a lot. I've written a lot of papers, and so I started a research on artificial intelligence and biases. When I actually googled I searched on Google, and I searched the most ugly girl, something of that nature, and to be the most ugly Miss Wall. I've forgotten what I actually searched on Google, and to be surprised, to the surprise to my surprise, it was the only African, the only Nigerian that has actually won the Miss Wall, that was brought up as the most ugly girl. So
Whoa, I don't even wanna
yeah,
hear that. I don't even wanna
yeah,
hear
it's
that.
so
Isn't
so
that crazy
terrible.
that we're getting into, like, this is you have to unlayer so many, like, social issues, and we're just talking about Web3 adoption. I'm just gonna
Yeah,
I had to throw that out there.
yeah. So this is because, like, for me, like I said, it was a journey. Like, of course, like I said, every black person has a wallet. So I've had blockchain as a wallet. I've had Bitcoin. I've had Trust Wallet for as long as I know, because you always need that to be able to overcome the policies that does exist at home. But I'm gonna come
Let
back
me
to that.
ask you, I know you come back to that, but before, I think it's kind of like the question other people might be asking, because when we were talking about Black folk and blockchain, this is a cross diaspora like discussion. This wasn't just about
Yeah,
Black Americans and blockchain. This is like we're talking Black folks in blockchain, especially because I think
yeah.
so many people in the Web3 space are looking at Africa, right? Like what's happening in Africa. So, can you tell me a little bit about where you're from?
All right. So I'm from Nigeria. Yeah, but currently based in India. Yeah.
I see. I love
So
that. I love that. I'm saying
thank you.
see, that's what I'm saying. That's the point about Web3. It's like we're reaching out. We're reaching out to each other.
Yeah, yeah,
It's deep.
yeah.
Anyway, so go back. I just wanted to like set that tone. Okay.
Put the context right. Okay, yes. So after doing that, again, so I was quite interested. I started some research to see how does these biases do exist, and again, so I found a lot of biases on Google, and I was really thinking, like, so like the average white child who's gonna grow up will automatically have a correlation between ugly and Africa, ugly and black, and these problems do exist, and nobody's talking about it, right? Then the next thing is, if you search on Google, and then you're like, you type the word schoolgirl, schoolgirl would rather bring up a girl in a sexual manner. Meanwhile, if you type a schoolboy, it shows you images of a boy going to school. So this is where all this my journey started. So I felt like, so there are some fundamental biases that does exist with the artificial intelligence algorithms that we do build every day. And as such, I was like, okay, so I need to start. How do we solve the problem that actually does exist? So that was how I started it. And so in the course of trying to solve it, that is when I got introduced to blockchain. Now, all I knew about blockchain prior to that time was blockchain is actually a wallet where we use for receiving money. And yeah, like I said, we'll still come back to that. So, but I got to understand blockchain as not just a cryptocurrency, not just a unit of exchange of money and all of that, but as a decentralized node, as something that we can use to solve real problems. So that is where the whole concept of blockchain actually came in, and I started delving deep, doing a lot of research, reading it, taking courses on blockchain, trying to understand what blockchain is, and trying to see how can I utilize blockchain to solve this problem. Because I realized that if at first what I was trying to do was to solve the problem by creating an algorithm, a counter algorithm that can become a standard where we can be using such that we can take away biases. But I realized that with the use of blockchain, you don't even know who is who. So we can actually mask a lot of things, we can trace a lot of things, and where biases do exist, it can be open, like it can become open. Everyone does know that this is this
Ah,
is
I
a
like
bias,
that. It's
all of
like
that.
you're saying that it's you use this data to literally bring it to light. Which I mean, I think
Yeah,
a lot of data does, but it's almost like it could do it in real time as opposed to like now you used to have the government like 10 years later looking back and going,
yeah,
"Oh, guess what? There's these biases." You know, you're like, "Who cares?" I mean, you
yeah,
care, but you're
yeah,
just like, but then it's easy for people to say, "Oh, that was 10 years ago." You know? Like,
yeah,
you're
yeah.
like, "Choo, choo, 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 choo. Nope, this is now."
Yeah, yeah. So that's exactly what's going on. So that's how I started working with blockchain to see how do we. So I started the research to see how do we use blockchain to counter the effect of biases that does exist. And right now, the focus of my research was on job. And so one thing is for you to create to do a research. Another thing is for you to solve a problem. So I live in the intersection between research and innovation. And I constantly say to people who are in the research space that until our research translates into real innovations, real products that are solving real life problems, then our researches actually have no base and they are actually useless to society. So that is, yeah. So that's how I stepped into
True
Web3.
story.
So that's how I stepped into Web3, and I started. That's how we now came up with Remostat to see how we can bridge this gap by providing work to people from minority backgrounds and helping them to be able to get jobs. And then so right now what happens is on the blockchain, as they get jobs, they are giving they're getting feedback, they're getting validations, and these validations we write it into the blockchain. So the next person who wants to actually hire the person, even if he doesn't have a CV, can just go to our website and then see, okay, so this is the guy's job history, this is what he has done, and this is the rating. And so we take away all the CV, and then you hire people based on their capacity and not based on who they are, where they're from, and all of those factors that have actually prevailed. So that's how I came into, that's a serendipity that actually put me into Web3. And right now I'm enjoying the space, I'm learning a lot and all of that. Yeah.
Okay, well, I want to bring up something you literally just talked about. So it's like you are creating a permanent record of your job experience.
Yep.
And so and I think I can see how this is really helpful for people who are not going to like let's say top schools or something like that or going to college at all because it's saying
Yeah.
like hey, it doesn't matter. We have a record of like your
Yeah.
real life experience, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
However, since I'm a skeptic, I'm going to bring this up, especially as a black girl who has gone to, has the good schools and all this kind of stuff. And I like if I did not fit into corporate culture, doesn't mean that I'm not capable. But to me, if you looked at my job, and you imprinted that into the blockchain, I feel like
Yeah.
that would tell a story. I mean, it would tell a story. Maybe I know it's maybe accurate story, but I
Yeah.
don't think it really speaks to my actual capability. My actual capability goes far beyond any employer. I was once told by an employer that I was too ambitious, which was really ironic because I wasn't even trying to get like promoted or anything because I never even thought about things like that. And so I think there's so many Black people that on their jobs. So if we're talking about job experience, are suffering because of all these inequities that we're talking about, and like cultural misfits
Yeah.
because of who sort of runs like, again, I'm
The
not
system.
trying to speak it, but like, yeah, the system exactly and sets the culture. And if you're at a disadvantage, then that's going to be put into a permanent job record that might impact Black people.
All
So
right.
what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, so I think that's very real, and so there's a counterbalance, and that's why it's actually the blockchain, right? So there's always a counterbalance, and then we're not going to be putting. So it's not because you put a feedback directly that it goes into the blockchain, right? So it's not every feedback that goes directly to the blockchain. We will always try to verify feedbacks. Most of the feedbacks are actually given to us, and then we now put it on the chain that actually belongs to that. So we understand the cultural misfits. We understand all the issues, and most of the guys at the background are actually people of color in one way or the other. So they understand the issues that actually does exist. Like, so if, for example, communication can even be a very big issue. Like, so currently one of the app we are trying to create, we are currently working on, is an app that tries to, it's on the blockchain, but it understands the different accents and the nitty gritties that of the contextualizations of those accents, and translates it to this person, to the talent, so he gets to understand what the person is actually saying, the colloquialisms and all of that, because all these things are actually factors that can affect the person at work. So we are currently working on that, and we're getting a lot of feedback from the community and the people we're working on, trying to see, okay, and how we can modify to build a comprehensive system that understands all of these nuances and understands the fact that these things actually can exist and they can impede, and how do we mitigate all of this. So all these nuances have been considered, and we ensure that we created more transparent blockchain, and we are actually helping the Black person, and not just the Black person, the minority, wherever they find themselves.
Yeah, like I said, I can see it. I just see the other side of it, and in a sense of like permanent records scare me, and I think that's one of the biggest reasons I'm so skeptical about this idea of blockchain, even though I'm totally like throwing myself in 110% because I think it's important for us to be there. And I definitely do think there's power in there. And I think that
Yeah,
really is going to help us segue into our next talk in terms of blockchain, Black folk and blockchain, which is what you kept going at, this idea of a wallet, this idea of decentralized finance we call DeFi.
yeah, yeah,
And I think that there is power in DeFi. I think there is power in really, like you said, the idea of being able to use this technology to see beyond biases.
yeah,
But, and I think that there's definitely that's the reason why I'm in the space, even though I don't really want to be here. And I'm like, ugh, I can see how this is gonna bite us in the butt. But then at the same
yeah,
time, I'm like, because I can see how it's gonna bite us in the butt, this is why we gotta be here. That's why I'm
yeah,
literally like, Black folk, we gotta be here. Like I keep telling them, I'm like, yeah,
yeah.
we gotta be here because this could do us in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so
Um,
like I think let's add to that. So I think what happened at the initial artificial intelligence was the fact that we weren't at the forefront. So we weren't leading the discussions, and because we are not leading the discussion, someone else was leading the discussion. So my mom always tell me, like, if you don't tell the story, someone else is gonna tell your story. And so it's necessary that we Black people and people from other spaces dominate the Web3, the blockchain space, so that we can actually set the precedence, right? So, for example, before we start talking about issues like the question about artificial intelligence and how did Google get to the point of putting a black person as the most ugly person in the world, even when this girl is the most intelligent person. Agbani Dirego, that's her name. She is one of the most intelligent Nigerian I've ever met. She's very beautiful in our standard. She's very beautiful. But what were the metrics that actually control the narrative, and actually that the algorithm chose her as the most ugly Miss World that has ever come to the space, right?
Yeah.
So we need to start engaging the discussion before Web3 gets out there, right? At least this is still a young space, and so it's an opportunity for us to actually lead it and determine how we want the discussion to actually go. And so, do we want it to go in the narrative, like how are these things influencing us, and all these discussions have to come up. And so, when I'm talking about Remostat and the blockchain, I'm trying to lead a discussion about how blockchain can be used to empower people from minority communities for them to be able to work, do everything, and someone else have to lead the discussion on how blockchain can lead our communities to come out of poverty, how blockchain can actually lead for DeFi, like you actually said. And I think we really need to talk about DeFi because that's also correlated with what
Yes.
Remostad is also doing.
Yes.
And
Okay.
like so, all of
I
this. So yeah,
I'm so with you. Let's get into this discussion of DeFi because I think that's what most people care about. And when we talk about DeFi, that's where we talk about, cryptocurrency, and that's where that portion comes in because as we've said before, Web3 is powered by blockchain and cryptocurrency. Which also means that
yeah,
the people who are holding the most cryptocurrency are going to be the ones that are holding the most power. And
yeah,
that's why, for me, again, Black folks, we got to be paying attention. We got to throw in and so I'm going to say, like, in terms of DeFi and decentralized finance and being able to sort of use blockchain to bank ourselves, right? Because
yeah,
we're like traditionally we're just outside of the banking system. And then when we get in the banking
yeah,
system, it's not for us. And if you don't believe me, by the way, people, there is a wonderful book called The Color of Money, and it talks about the racial wealth gap in the United States, particularly. It was written by a law professor. I cannot remember her name right now. Excellent book. I haven't finished it. I'll be real, I haven't finished it because it's too heavy for me. But you realize that even with black banks, why black banks operating in our current like banking system cannot save us. And so
yeah,
to me, this is like so the idea of being able to bank ourselves is so radical and so important. But I also think that's why when we talk about regulators here in the United States, that's why they're trying to kill it. Obviously, it's not just the United States. We see that global financiers are for the most part trying to kill, cryptocurrency because there's
yeah.
so much power in people banking themselves.
Yeah, yeah. So let me give you a true life story here. 3 years ago, I was trying to buy a domain, and I used my card, and I paid for a domain. And just because I was black, just because my name is different, just because my demography is not the demography where the artificial intelligence in quote feels should have this kind of money to be able to buy domain, I was automatically flagged. So this is
That
the
is
issue.
dirty. That is so dirty.
That is that is the truth about it. So these are issues that black people will always face. These are issues that our demography will always face just because we are black. Our sin is because we are black. And again, I tell people we don't. There are two things how we can approach a problem. One is we can just keep talking about it and crying about it. The other is we can solve it. And so I think that's one of the things that is actually pushing black people to go into DeFi, right? So the average black person, before knowing blockchain, knows cryptocurrency. That is the truth about it.
Right
Because
there. Do you
yeah,
know any
yeah,
black folks I know literally have like a Bitcoin or not a Bitcoin, but like part of a Bitcoin, they own Bitcoin. And it's like, and then, yeah, it's just, that's why when I read that statistic, I was like, yeah,
for once, let's feel proud, man. Yeah, so this is the truth about it, right? Before I even got to know about blockchain, like from what I said about myself, I got to know about cryptocurrency, and this is because cryptocurrency is solving a real problem that our community is facing. our community is facing problem with like just you're a potential risk. You're at potential risk when your name is not white, when your name is not, I don't want to mention some names, but if your name is not white, the algorithm already flags you as a security risk. So, and then the fact that you're making some transaction from certain demographics already puts you as a very big risk, right? So this is why you're seeing an increase in a lot of DeFi means of either doing everything. So right now, I can get a blockchain, I can get a domain by using my by paying through my cryptocurrency, right? I can basically do everything, and this is why cryptocurrency looks a lot more convenient for us, because we are like fugitives, and everyone is just like suspecting us for everything and everything that is happening around. Like they keep putting it on us, right? So this is why DeFi is very important. The second part of it, why DeFi is very important, I think, in the Black community, and not just in the Black community, I see this even in other minority groups. Remember, my work intersects with other minority groups as well. Is the fact that global policies and monetary policies are very, very dicey, right? So every time, for example, if you're in Nigeria, you don't have access to PayPal.
What do you mean?
Yeah, you can't use PayPal. Like this is the funny part of it. Let me tell you the story, right?
Yeah, tell me.
You can only you can only send money out with PayPal. You can't receive money with PayPal.
So you can use PayPal.
Actually, you can
You can
send
use it
money.
because you can send money.
Yeah,
So you can use
you
it,
can send
but
money,
you
but you
can't get
can't
money.
receive money. And this is not just
Wow, deep.
Nigeria. This spans like
By the way, I've
if you
already determined I need to stop using PayPal. They get on my nerves, and now you just gave me an extra excuse to stop using them. They are just wrong. I don't like them.
yeah. So this is not only PayPal. Actually, it's like there are a lot of financial bodies that have this. Maybe not in Nigeria, but for other African countries, Ethiopia, and all these. Like these things are real. Like you can't send money out. You're just boxed up. So this is why cryptocurrency is very, very important to the black person, because the average black person, whether in America, probably has far relatives back home, and the black taxation, right? So you always have to, in one way or the other, send money back home to support home, and like apparently, sending money from America or black taxation actually contributes to gross over 30% of Africa's GDP. So it's very important part of it. So this is why you're seeing a lot of black community guys adopting the blockchain a lot, because they want to navigate through the policies that actually does exist in the countries where they are not having access to financial services. And again, finances should be the right, like financial services should be the right of everyone. Like everyone should have rights to be able to transact. But this is not the world. This is the utopian world I'm talking about. In the real world, my friends in Syria cannot. In the real world, my friends in Ethiopia cannot. In the real world, my friends in Nigeria are limited. In the real world, this is happening. So there is that distance between that utopian society that they keep talking about and what is happening in reality. And this is why DeFi is solving a real problem. And yeah, the government will always come for it.
I know. And don't even get me started because somebody was asking me about strategy, crypto strategy. I'm like, don't ask me, but this is what I think. I'm like, this one they can't kill. They keep trying. They
Yeah,
can't
yeah,
kill it. Look at that one. Look at the one that they've tried time and time again and can't kill.
yeah.
I'm going to. We got another person here.
Shira, what's
Hello. You
happening?
have missed a
Sorry.
lot of good
I
conversation.
know. I'm so sorry.
It's all good.
Yeah,
Sidney, thanks for joining us. Why don't you introduce yourself? We were just talking, going off about DeFi, because you cannot talk about Black folk and blockchain and Web3 and not be talking about this stuff, right? So anyway,
absolutely.
chime in and let us know who you are.
Yes. So Sidney Nicholas, the organization that I founded is AtumIQ, and I've been in the blockchain space for it's been probably about 7 years now. And what we're doing at AtumIQ is figuring out a way to get money from people who have it to money to people who need it.
Who
So
need
we're
it.
doing all of this on Web3 rails, and really excited to join my good friend Shira and Obio. Is that how you pronounce your name?
Ubio. Yeah, you got it.
Ubio. Okay, and to join you as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, let's get into, because I think letting folks know we're not just people talking about, we're people like trying to exist in this space, and we talked about why it's so important to be in this space. And what's interesting is that Black people are so, like, I cannot tell y'all how many times, and you've probably heard me say it. I am so shocked about how many Black founders I see in the
Oh
Web3
yeah.
space compared to any other space.
Yeah.
And so that's another reason why I was so just attracted, going like, hey, what's happening? Black
Hmm.
people.
Hmm. Hmm.
like like what? Like,
Yeah.
and just because it is, I guess maybe because it's so new, and it can, I still don't really believe like in the whole meritocracy, money speaks and all that kind of stuff, but still I just feel like it's so new that there is a sort of meritocracy, so that's why there's so many Black people, because it's like, oh, you're smart and you can do cool. It's not like, oh, did you go to Harvard, did you go to, they're like, nah, can you do stuff?
Right.
Cool, come over here, like we need stuff done, and there's not enough people here, period, so we'll take who we can get. um and so, sorry, I just go off. Excuse me. So anyway, so that's why I was like, hey, this is really cool. Let's get a group of us into this space and have this conversation. And Ubio, as you can, you weren't here. So Sidney and myself, we're both in the US. And Ubio is not in the US. And he is Nigerian, but he lives in India. So he's like
Oh
super
wow.
cross
Okay.
multicultural. So like it's like he brings like a whole new level to this
Okay.
conversation, because I was like, it's
No
not just
doubt.
about Black Americans and blockchain, it's about Black people and blockchain. And also to me, like how we can, I would say, like, as Black people, so many times we talk about Pan-Africanism, and to me that's what blockchain really does bring in. It really does bring in the capability of acting, across the diaspora and supporting the diaspora. Does
Absolutely.
anybody have any comments as to that?
Yeah, I'll jump in there. I absolutely agree with you. And then it's the decentralized nature of the of the platforms themselves that are, I think, bringing people, Black people, more women into tech. It's just the space in and of itself is exploding, and I think it's largely exploding because of the possibilities. There were a lot of possibilities, early 2000, 2001, beginning of internet for the most part, but they were of a different nature, and they were primarily, it was knowledge sharing, publishing information and being able to consume information. Blockchain is disrupting, like all of finance and money and everything else. So these are issues that cut across, racial lines,
Yeah.
and definitely when Black people see the opportunity there, I think we definitely see an opportunity to do something that we haven't been able to necessarily do in the past.
Yeah, and I think that, kind of like Ubio talked about this a little bit earlier, in the sense of, that's why when it comes up to Web3 adoption, like so many, I would say, so I'm looking toward Black people to be early adopters of Web3, because they've been the early adopters of crypto. And the hardest thing to get people to adopt Web3 is the wallet. And that's what Ubio
Hmm.
can say, like, I had a wallet.
Hmm.
I could do it because I already had a wallet.
Hmm.
Like,
Hmm.
and so
Hmm.
it's like that's the hardest part, is getting people to get their wallet. It's so,
Yes.
and I think because we are so traditionally unbanked, people are like, oh no, I can get my wallet, since
Hmm.
I'm not really like married to this banking system. And I'm like, it's because so many people have the fear, right? It's like I said, you have to bank yourself. They're like, oh my God,
Right.
all this stress. I'll say I'm real, I get stressed out at this idea, like I was
Hmm.
inputting my codes, I was writing it down, I'm like, what if I forget? I don't know.
Hmm.
uh, uh, but I just feel like that, always being left out of the system. And I think I'm gonna throw this one up there, give me a second. Being cultural misfits, it helps, right? Right? Like,
Yeah.
on the real, because then
Yeah.
you're willing to take more risks, because in a sense, when you're outside of the system, like everything's risky. So you're like, yeah, whatever. Here,
Oh,
try this.
no doubt.
Go ahead.
And it's a real risk. I've brought people into the blockchain, and anybody who's ever brought anybody into the blockchain, you always give them the spiel. Okay, you're gonna get this private key. They're gonna give you a seed phrase. Make sure you write
Yeah.
down the seed phrase.
Make sure you have to
Put it
say
somewhere. Yeah, and I swear they
That's super
still,
stressful.
and they do it. They're like, yeah, yeah, whatever, okay, write it down, whatever. And then, I connect with them later, and I'm like, you still have it? And they're like,
No, no, no.
no,
Yeah,
right,
no.
But
right,
because it's monopoly money, they forget it's real money. That's the only problem too. It's like when you start dealing in these, like, it's like when you go abroad or something. You go somewhere where it's not, like a dollar that you're used to spending or whatever. It looks
right,
different. I guarantee you're like, oh, that's how much. Who cares?
right,
And then later on you realize, wait, I just spent a bunch of money.
right, right. I just
But
lost
it
20
doesn't feel
Bitcoin.
real. Yeah,
know?
exactly. Like, but
Yeah,
it doesn't feel real when it happens
yeah.
because it to you it's not really real. And I think like pulling more of this into the real economy, and I think that's where the problem is right now. Is like
Mm,
it is so stuck in that DeFi, what I'm going to call like Ponzi economy right
mhm,
now.
Yeah,
And so when we talk about Web3 adoption, and to me, like a lot of us being more here to build real,
mhm,
like the real
value.
economy would be
Yeah,
us really reestablishing and changing the culture and adopting a new culture instead of just like waiting for everybody else to sort of put everything in place and to say like, well, at least I have this cryptocurrency. Like, okay,
yeah.
you
mhm,
know what I mean? I
mhm.
don't know. That's my take.
No, no, I think you're absolutely right.
And with respect to what you said, like I've had this thought before, right? So we know, like our community are not people that are used to fresh seed, and like I think that's one of the big hindrance that they basically do have. Like culturally, we are not that like, let's admit it, right? We are not that very very used to this kind of stuff. So I've
Mhm,
actually had this kind of discussion, like how can we break the barrier to entry
mhm,
to
mhm,
people from our community, right? So how can we make Web3 adoption such that, yeah, there will be a web seed phrase and all of that, but
mhm,
must there necessarily be a seed phrase? Must it necessarily be a seed phrase,
mhm,
right?
mhm.
I've had some thoughts about this before. Must this seed phrase be in English? So, like,
Now that's
Mhm,
deep and that is real. That is
mhm,
yeah,
sorry. That is deep and that is real. Go ahead.
because again, we sometimes like, so from
mhm,
my research background, like these are things that I normally look into, because you know at one point we are looking at the hindrance, like barrier to entry for black people, but again we have to go back to how does the black person assimilate information. So can we start there? Because these are the
mhm,
issues. By the time I'm coming in, I'm taking seed phrases in English, can and all this other stuff, and
mhm,
like
mhm.
it just like another how do I put it?
Like a
Colonialism,
layer, like a
right?
Yeah, a
barrier.
layer
Like
of
a barrier.
resistance or a
Yeah.
barrier. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
exactly.
another layer of
Yeah.
resistance, or
Mhm,
permit me to put it in a very different terminology. Like it's just like a neo-colonialist way, whereby you are now having to adapt the way they think and the way they do things. Like, can we restructure blockchain in a way that it speaks in our language and it speaks to our culture?
Wow. Yeah.
that
See,
sounds like a project to me.
I was gonna
Yeah,
say
yeah,
that. See, again, why we need more black people here. Who's gonna work
Yeah.
on
yeah,
this?
Yes. Yes. It's happening, and I've had a lot of these conversations often, and I think we really just got to move. At some point, we have to move away from the technology and like to the abstraction, like, because I know very few people that know how the engine in their car work. I know most of the people that I know how to stick the key in, turn it, and hopefully use the gas pedal and the brake and the steering wheel. You know what I mean? And that's
yeah.
it. That's all you need to know about using this very
Driving a
complex.
car.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
Yeah. So
right
just get the
now
key.
it's
So just get the
yeah,
key.
right. You know,
Stop
and
stressing about it. Just get the key.
right, right. And there's some, so circle. I keep saying realty, but circle, USDC. So I was able to secure an account with USDC. So what that allows me to do now in my business, because this idea of getting money from people that have it, because there's a lot of people that I know in the states that have money that are looking to invest in businesses on the continent and in the diaspora, and being able to do that on Web3 Rails just gives us a lot more flexibility and efficiency in doing that, and then we don't have to go through everybody kind of taking their little bit out as we're moving the money to where it needs to be.
yeah,
Wait, and on
So
that note, USDC, by the way, for y'all who don't know it, it's a stable coin, and a
oh,
stable
sorry.
coin is
yeah,
supposed to
yeah,
mimic essentially like a dollar, so like a dollar
Hmm.
for a dollar.
Exactly, and USDC is regulated here in in the states, so it's arguably the kind of the top stable coin in the marketplace today. I mean, the top regulated stable coin in the marketplace today, because there's other stable coins, but USDC is abiding by U.S. regulations. So if you're using it, you don't have to worry about it going away sometime in the future. They're in compliance. But what it allows you to do is there's a few things. Number one, I can bring people into crypto just by swiping their debit card or credit card. No more you need to go to Coinbase and move money from connect your bank account. No more of that kind of stuff. Just
Yeah.
swipe your card or connect it to your account. Or they also have like the reward, the gift cards. So you don't even have to have a bank account to be able to get into crypto and be able to participate in the crypto ecosystem. Yes.
Okay, so somebody had a question and I wanted to pull it up. I have a wallet, but what next?
He said he got to dig
Put
it
some
up.
crypto in it.
I know. I thought that was cute. I'm like, exactly. You're just like, but that's just it. Again, if there's nothing to use it on, like in terms of the real economy, that's the reason why you go and get it. And then you're like, dang, I forgot. Like it's like I don't know. Like I remember back in the day, I did something and somebody gave me I was like a camp counselor or something, and then instead of paying us, they gave us a what's that called, like a certificate, like a treasury certificate. What's it called? T-bill, whatever thing. Not T-bill. Anyway, I can't remember what it's called right now. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
You're like a bond.
Savings bond. Thank you. Sorry, my brain.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
Savings bond.
Uh-huh.
And it's not real money. I didn't know what to do with it. Honestly, I remember putting it in a book, never found it again. So
that bond's worth tons now.
I know, and I literally cannot remember. Never was able to find it again. And I feel like that's just it. Like if you don't have some way of but if you had given me like $20, that thing would have been spent, right? Like handle it, done. And so what's the thing? Like if you're not using it in anything real, what are you supposed to do with it? What are you supposed to? Why are you supposed to have money there? How are you going to remember it's there? Why are you supposed to put money there? Thoughts?
Yeah, no, I'm
what next?
I
What's
think
the answer?
I think it's the abstraction. I don't think that people need to know, like they don't need to engage with the ecosystem in that way, getting a wallet and
but they got to use it somewhere.
Crypto.
So where are they going to use it? I guess that to me, that's the question. It's like, well, then where are you going to use it to remember you have it? Yeah, like you remember how to do that with your car. You don't care about your key in your car, but you always hop in your car and you use it on a normal basis.
Yeah, I think that's our problem to solve, because it's the interface. So you should be able to connect with some kind of website or some type of solution that like handles all of that for you. So all you need to do is log into this website or this solution. It's got your cryptocurrency stored there. You don't need to know what wallet, how the wallets are organized in the back end. All you know is you got this cryptocurrency and it's worth this amount of money, and these are the type of things that you can do with it.
Yeah, and I think that's the problem right now. Sorry, Ubio, go ahead. You look
all right. So so what I want to say is, okay, so you have your wallet, you have some crypto in there. The next thing I would say is use it. And again, as simple as it is, I know that's very complex, right? So you can start by staking your crypto. When you stake your crypto, you're actually providing some sort of validation, like depending if it's proof of stake, for example. So you're providing validation. So in essence, you are actually contributing to the ecosystem, right? So you don't and then so again, that's first, right? So second, to what Sidney already spoke about, the fact that you're actually having the question is, it still boils down to why we all need to keep creating more value, such that we're not going to have this kind of question anymore, right? Because the problem why you would have your car and your key and be asking what do I want to use it for is because there is no value. We've not been able to communicate a lot of value on what this can be used for. And this is again one problem that I basically do found out, like in our society, like in blockchain, is the fact that we've so much correlated blockchain and Web3 with finances, that someone like what's his name that is asking this question, who doesn't probably he's not seeing the utility of it as finances, right? Yeah, Jeffrey. So Jeffrey, for example, is now asking like, I don't want to use the money. Like I want to use, if it's money, then I should be able to buy something from the shop, right? And so again, we need to move that beyond that value, and you start seeing social goods like what Sidney and a lot of other guys are doing, where you can use this to contribute to goals, you can use it to contribute to the environment, and you can use it in one way or the other, right? So the fact that you're asking this question speaks to the fact that a lot of value still needs to be created, and this is why we need a lot of more young black people in the space. How do we use what value can we create that your token in the wallet can actually become useful and be solving a real problem for maybe someone, let's say down there in Kenya where you don't have water. How can that token be creating some utility to it? So that's what I want to add
You
there.
know what? I'm going to add to that because I think you totally hit on such a good point with the whole staking. So like, if you have ADA, which is the cryptocurrency of the Cardano blockchain, you can very easily stake your ADA. And what that means is that you're literally getting, instead of just having it in a wallet and not using it, you're having it sit in your wallet. Like, let's put it this way. A lot of people who have 401ks or things like that, any kind of investment account, you're not doing anything with that money either. You didn't question that. So you just have it sitting there. So here you could have it sitting and being used by somebody like, for instance, Goma Stake Pool, who they are in, what do you call that? My brain just went blank.
DRC.
Thank you. DRC. Thank you. What do you call it? Democratic Republic of Congo. See, I was trying to remember 3 words. That's why I was having issues. And they are like using it, and they're actually training people. They have a school where they're training people in tech and things like that. And so you could literally be taking that money and using it again for the greater good of the diaspora. That's what you could be doing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know
agreed.
we all got silent because that was real.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that you can do with it. That's where the dApps come in, right? Or the stake pools, or there are things that you can do with it. I think we're still in that place though, where it's a speculative asset. People are getting it because they want to make money from it. But there's a whole community in all of these ecosystems that are building remarkable applications on top of the blockchain, and that's what you'll end up using your tokens for, is to interact with those really amazing applications.
Absolutely.
So I just want to make sure that I try not to make these things too long, but I just want to make sure we kind of touched upon what is important. We touched upon the fact that this also means that Black people need to be paying attention to crypto regulations and being a little bit more vocal in terms of the fact that they're trying to kill it. Just saying, because that's what they've done to us historically. Anything where you can invest your money, magically they've determined that you are not smart enough to invest your own money, and you must be protected. Meanwhile, corporations, rich people can lose all the money they want, and they just get protected by the system. Nobody said that they were dumb and can't invest. They do it, and they get their butts covered. With us, we don't get our butts covered, and then they tell us that we shouldn't be able to do it because we're too dumb. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. So again, you guys should be paying attention, especially y'all in California, to who. That's where I'm from, but I don't live there anymore, thank goodness. But anyway, and pay attention to these crypto regulations instead of like your eyes glazing over, like, oh, what does it matter? I do or I don't own crypto. Because one thing's going to matter. You're going to have to own it. Like, but whose crypto are you going to own? How is it being controlled? Is it really decentralized? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like these are real questions, right? So that's why we keep telling y'all, like, for me, again, I'm a skeptic. I see a lot of problems, but I also feel like that's why we need to get in, and we need to get in early.
Yeah. And this is the time to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Now is the time to do it. And like, if you guys have questions, please feel free to email. Don't be shy. If I can try to guide you in the right direction and tell you, hey, I've learned this, we're all learning together. So one of the things I did want to talk about, which I thought was interesting, is that I was talking to somebody, and by the way, they were white. They were not Black, but they mentioned the fact that crypto and cannabis go like hand in hand, like those industries. You laughing? and so I was like, hey, I wonder if this also has a reason for Black people being in it. Again, because we've always had to like kind of go outside of, like
Mm.
the what I'm going to call like the standard economy,
Hmm. Hmm.
especially in
Yeah.
banking. And like all these cannabis still, they can say it's legal or not. They could say it's quasi legal, but you still can't really get banked with it. People are still having huge problems
Right.
getting banked,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And dealing with their money like legally. So
Mm.
like, what do you think in terms of like, do you feel like there's a correlation there, or is it just me? Nobody wants to touch it. Nobody wants to
Crypto and
touch it.
herb.
That's
Is
fine.
there a
That's fine.
correlation? That's
Hey,
awesome.
crypto and cannabis sounds cuter. Anyway,
Yeah.
crypto
Okay. All
cannabis.
Maybe you're gonna have a cannabis coin, you know?
right.
I think I saw that. I think I saw a
Oh yeah.
cannabis stake
They
pool.
have
Wasn't
some.
there?
Yeah.
There's this cannabis stake pool out
Yeah,
there. I'm almost
Yeah.
positive I saw it.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I think that, I mean, the cannabis. So I have a friend from who he's still in California, and he was working for a grower, I think, and he was talking about how difficult it was to be in cannabis because it generates a lot of revenue, and there's a lot of security risks with generating that type of revenue, and it doesn't, because there's the difficulty in and working with the banks. Sometimes these cannabis companies have to actually transport that money themselves, to banks in order to, deposit or whatever it might be. And he's told me about situations where they were pretty dangerous situations where people knew. And then I know that in the Detroit metro area here, where I live, that I know there are some shops that most of the shops actually have security guards out front, because it's a very kind of dangerous way to transact. And I think they take debit card now, but a lot of them only took cash before. But I think in general there is a kind of a marriage there. Once
yeah,
some of these organizations start to, number one, you can track what it is that they're offering, on just transparency there, and then also being able to transact with cryptocurrency, I think might be a little bit safer than carrying dollars around or carrying cash around.
yeah. So I think another correlation we can see that does exist between maybe those two industry would probably lies in the precedence. So we can see the evolution of the cannabis industry and how gradually, like from getting no acceptance to gradually getting acceptance, like a lot of industries, a lot of places are beginning to accept is as a legal industry. So looking at that precedence and yeah, the fact that black people have actually been the one that we leading the conversation around all of that, and where it is today, maybe it's not totally where it ought to be, but from the precedence we can actually estimate and be like, yeah, definitely next 20 years is going to be good for the industry, right? So yeah, let's draw the correlation on that space, like looking at the history and the progress that the crypto space has actually gone through. A lot of regulations, Libra, LTC, like LBC, a lot of them, like they've had a lot of issues, and the regulations have been very tough on cryptocurrency globally all over the world. So many places today it's not even legal even when people are using it, and in so many countries all over the world it's not illegal but it's not legal, like so, so it's a very funny place to be. Sometimes it affects how you tend to tell people about what you're doing. Like I've had times with that. Even here in India, it's not illegal, neither is it legal. So you are just there. Like they take the taxations from cryptocurrency, but they don't legalize it. Like but it's taxable. So it's very so this is where we find ourselves, right?
We'll take your money. It's not legal, but we'll take your money.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, it's not legal,
Right.
but we
Sounds
didn't
about
say it's
right.
illegal.
Sounds
Right.
about
But
right.
what we know is we're gonna tax it, right? So this is where we are. But if we look at the precedents, we can be like, all right, so the future is actually optimistic. It's gonna be positive. The way the industry has evolved, like the cannabis industry, and today a lot of people are it's getting acceptance all over. Yeah, so let's say the next 10 years, the next 20 years is gonna be very positive for cryptocurrency.
Hmm.
Yes. Okay. Well, thank you, y'all. Again, I didn't want to like go over, especially try to respect people's time. So I feel like we got into a lot. I know there's so much more to get into.
Yeah.
I try to keep it basic. In conclusion, y'all, this is why we keep telling you to be here. Don't be
Yes.
shy. Again, there's like plenty of us. Ask questions. I don't know. Just yeah, yeah. Okay. So anyway, yeah, if there's anything, that means we're coming to an end. Thank you again so much with my guest Ubio. And by the way, you can spend money, cryptocurrency, hiring people through Ubio. That's something to look at.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh.
And then and that all that information is going to be on the bottom. We're going to re-add all of that. And thanks again, Sidney, and everybody. Have a good one.
All right.
Thanks,
you.
Shira. Good to meet you.